Hello, today I'm building in Henford on Bagley, and I'm doing the biggest build that I think I've ever done. I was gonna say that I've done recently, but I don't think I've ever done a build this size before. And it was inspired because I got a comment from Ginny's Labios, and they were saying how they play with like large families and stuff, and asked if I had any like builds that had more bedrooms. And normally I do 1 to 2 bedrooms, three if it's a big house. So like 3 bedrooms is a big house for me. And this one has 6 bedrooms. I guess potentially seven if like the attic tower counts as a room, but it's connected to another room, so I wouldn't think that. I didn't go full out with cluttering because it was such a large build, so there's not a lot of clutter, which I felt was okay. Because if I upload it as like a family cottage, I'm sure people would want to kind of decorate it themselves to fit their specific family that's living there. And I get discouraged if there's too much clutter in a build I'm downloading, even though I clutter my builds a bunch usually. I figured for family gameplay, you don't really want a bunch of clutter, but I did go all out on the exterior and the landscaping and stuff, so that's where I put most of my energy and effort into this build. I also had a reference picture that I'm going to pull up in a second. It was only a reference picture for the front of the house because um, it was a very tiny house. So a lot of the references I like are very small, which is also why my builds become super small. And I kind of had to wing it and kind of like pull out where I thought bedrooms might go and hope that it was big enough because I didn't go into the floor plan right away, which might have been a mistake. But yeah, I'm gonna pull up the picture now so you could see the front of the house at least. Here's the picture. Right now, I'm working on the back of the house, but yeah, there's the front. So I really liked the tower and the front door that's directly next to the tower. I thought it looked really cute. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start with this, and then I'm just going to slowly expand it. And I'm going to make it as blocky and square like as possible, but keeping it like kind of an interesting shape so that it wasn't just a giant rectangle. And I do like how the shape came out. I think I just like pulled out the back and then I gave a little wing off to the side. I think it worked out really well. In my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to make this like sort of like Tudor looking. And so that's what I was going for. I also made a pack limited. So this is a pack limited build. It uses 4 packs. Yeah, I like because somebody inspired me to make this, and I was like, well, I'm unsure what packs they have. So I'm just going to use my favorite packs and limit it to those so that it's more likely that they'd be able to play with it. And so I kind of just started pulling the packs that I thought would work. So I have Get Together, and then I had Cottage Living. Um then I did Horse Ranch because I wanted to use the columns. And then I was like, Megan, do you need to use Horse Ranch? I feel like you're not going to use a lot of the items on the exterior, but I did use some on the inside, and like the beds and stuff are amazing in that pack. So if you don't have Horse Ranch, you could kind of get away with downloading and replacing some interior items, and it wouldn't make that much of a difference. I think you need Get Together for the exterior because I used mostly all the wallpaper from that. And it wouldn't make sense without it, I don't think. I mean, you could definitely edit it if it is. I'm not sure how likely people are to download builds that use packs that they don't have and like edit it and stuff. I know that I probably wouldn't. Okay, and then the fourth pack is Discover University. Another pack that I was like, Megan, do you need to use this pack? And I was like, yeah, I do because I need the ivy pieces. And I'm like, fair enough. So I only used it for the ivy. And then I was like, all right, I can't just use a pack just for one debug item. And I was like, all right, you're going to have to use some of the items that come in it. But I was worried because I have done a Discover University only build before. There isn't a lot of interior items, and I struggled with it, and I was like, "This just feels like building a base game home," and I was like, I'll use it enough, I think. It should be fine," because the ivy pieces are so worth it, and for some reason I thought that Cottage Living also had ivy pieces that have, like, that sort of, like, climbing up look, and it's, like, a lot thinner, but they only have, like, the big chunky, pieces of ivy. The leaves are the same, but they don't really have the other ones that I was really looking for, and I didn't wanna use the get together ones because, um it was, like, too full, and I wanted the specific look with Discover University. Didn't matter anyway, this didn't have to be pack limited, but I felt like I had already started, so I was going with it. And that's also why it's not really cluttered as much because it's a huge house and I just didn't want to go through all of the clutter for each room. Oh, yeah, I really ended up liking the landscaping for this. I didn't want the lot to be flat because it is a huge lot. I don't remember the exact, like, size of this lot. It's one of the bigger ones in Henford, and so I just, like, raised up some terrain in the back, and I put rocks all around, which is usually my go-to landscaping, is just raise up some pieces, make a couple ponds somewhere, and then go from there. So the left side of the build is a little bit flat, which is I liked it. I ended up doing like a little path with some trees around. One of the main parts of the build that I really like that I think helps to make it feel a little bit more like magical is that I used a bunch of mushrooms from Cottage Living and I sized them up so they're like a lot bigger than they are in just like the base like swatch. And I feel like that's like it really came together because then I wanted this to be like a fantasy build too, but I didn't have Realm of Magic to put a cauldron in or anything. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna size up these little guys to make it seem like um I'm in a fantasy world or something like that. But I really like landscaping. I think it's been the most fun part of building for me, and then once I get past that, I start to struggle, and it's just because interiors are just harder for me, and because I feel like interiors take up the most building time, at least for me, because I do an exterior in, like, an hour to, like, an hour and a half depending on the landscaping pretty much, and then the interior is like 2 to 3 hours, which also depending on size. I mean, even little builds will take me that amount of time. Luckily, I think that, my building speed is pretty consistent with each build that I do, which makes it easier to edit the videos. And this video, so I use OBS to record my gameplay, and then when I'm done, I'm supposed to stop recording, and then I walk away, and then I come back. I did not do that this time. So I had a video that had, like, 2 to 3 hours of just nothing because I forgot to stop my recording, and I was, like, made lunch, and I was laying down, and I was, like, on my phone for hours, and then I came back, I was like, "Oh my god," and I forgot that happened, so I was putting this build into my editing software to edit it, and I was just like, "This took me this many hours?" And I was like, "What?" Because I'm like, "This is such a large build," and at that point, I was considering maybe going back to add clutter in, and I was like, "Well, now I'm not gonna put clutter in because this build is so long," and I'm like, "How am I gonna edit this down?" And then I was, like, going through the footage, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I see what happened." I was like, 3 hours of this is nothing, and even, like, sped up, like, 5 times. It was a lot, but, um it is not that long, thankfully. And yeah, so this is the ivy that I decided to use. Um, the pack just for this ivy specifically, and I think it was very important. I think that the build would not be the same without it. It's just like the best ivy in the game. I love every single little piece of it, and if I'm building without that ivy, I struggle a little bit. It's harder to get some of the like other ivy pieces to flow naturally. It's possible. It's just time consuming. Like I'm sure I could have done this with the cottage living one if I would have like sized them down smaller and like made my own shapes and stuff. But I was not going to do that because like when I start building, I get really excited to build and I don't want to have to like do tedious little things, which I used to like. I used to like the tedious little decorations, not so much as of recently. So that kind of changes depending on my mental state and my attention span, which has not been the best in the last few months. So, yeah, I did not have the energy to sit there and make my own ivy pieces. Luckily, as time goes on and I'm doing a speed build a week, I'm getting way more familiar with shortcuts and tools that help me to build quicker. Like when I do the rocks, I now know that I can lower them all at the same time and I could do all these little things. I can move them over all at the same time. Where my first video, I was individually moving each rock, and it was like a hill. It was like a hill that was covered in rocks, like the most rocks I've probably ever used. And I just like I knew that I could do it differently, but I just didn't feel like looking anything up, which I don't know why in my head looking something up seems a lot more time consuming and hard to do than just doing it a really long and difficult way. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I made little custom flower boxes by the windows just because I wanted to do something different and I felt like this build just like I don't know, I was just feeling inspired as I was building it. I was really excited. I did build this backwards on the lot, so I ended up having to save it to my gallery and then rotating it. But then rotating and doing that, some of the things were getting deleted, so then I had to put deletion protection on with Better Build By, and then nothing like then it was a mess because then nothing was getting deleted and things were just staying in weird places, and then I'm like, okay, let me do this again. So then I rotated it again and then that was okay, and just I had to move some of the objects that I used tool to slightly have off of the lot. I just had to move them around. And because then I was like, I love this build, and now, like, when you put it on the gallery, it would show, like, the back of it, which doesn't look as nice in the picture, but I ended up being able to fix it, and now I'm doing the floor plan. So, I apparently waited until I did all the landscaping. When I started this, I told myself that I was going to make sure that the floor plan would work before I did anything. And I don't think I fully did that. But the upstairs, maybe I did, unless I just talked over me doing the upstairs or something. I'm not sure. But my vision for this house was that you walk in, there's a long hallway, there's just a bathroom at the entryway, a cute staircase. To the left, it was a dining room that goes into a kitchen, and then the back is like a living room, and then there's a side room that's used as a study. But at this point, I wasn't really sure what these rooms were going to be. I knew that I wanted the dining room and kitchen to be on the left side of the house, and I wasn't sure what I would do with the other 2 rooms. They kinda just came together as I was putting furniture in. And the upstairs, some of the bedrooms are pretty small. I did a nursery for one of them, so there's just a crib in one room, and then there's, like, a very tiny, tiny room that is a toddler's bedroom, which could fit a normal bed into, like, a normal-sized bed. Um, but yeah, and then there's, like, 1 bedroom that's shared with 2 beds. How many beds did I put in this? What size family would this be? So, there's, like, the parents' bedroom, which is, like, 2, then there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Yeah, so this could fit a family of 8 in it because there is a kid's bedroom that has 2 beds in it, and then there's I guess, like, the room underneath this study that I have up here I kind of was imagining a guest room or just like a storage room where they have an extra bed and if they'd have to like kind of clear all the storage stuff out if someone was staying there. It's like because I put a bunch of books, but I didn't put a lot of books, but in my head I was like, who wants to go up this ladder all the time to store these books away? So they're just gonna keep them in that room that's not being used right now. And I didn't put a lot of books because it was limited pack and I was really missing the cats and dogs um book stack that's on top of a suitcase. One of my favorite items in the game, and I was like, "Do I add another pack in?" I could have. It's not like this was a challenge or anything. I was limiting the packs to the ones I used on the exterior. And so I decided to just stick with it. Oh yeah, also, I'd seen in Better Build Buy that Twistedmexi is adding a favorite item feature, which is going to be so helpful for building and doing interiors and cluttering, which I think is going to help me to like feel less scared about building sometimes because I could just favorite all of my clutter items and then I could easily find them and place them all. It might get repetitive, but I can do that now, and that would definitely save me a lot of time and effort because the main thing that, like, discourages me from doing interiors is that it's, like, a lot of searching. There's a lot of items, and if you have debug and live edit on, the searching becomes way longer than it has to be. Even with these limited packs, it's just a lot of scrolling and going through and stuff. My next build for next week it is a remodel of Bella Goth's mansion, in a completely different style. It's not a Gothic Victorian, and I had to stop so many times because I was just tired of scrolling. Because that's not a limited pack build either, and I'm just not used to scrolling through all the packs. So EA really, like, gets me with every pack, so I own all of the packs, so it's like there is a lot of items in the game, and why is it that, like, sometimes I'm like, "I don't know what items to use, I don't know what to tell you." Um, but yeah, this I guess this is the 2nd bedroom that I'm working on now. Yeah, the clutter is very minimal, I just put some plants around and stuff, and that's, like, what I end up doing for most of the rooms, and some toys. I don't think I put a toddler's, toilet in this build, and I woke up in the middle of the night last night, and in my head, I knew I was gonna do this voiceover today, and I woke up and I was like, "You didn't put the toddler's toilet in the build." And that kept me, like, awake for a little bit for some reason. In my half asleep state, like, the littlest of things really, like, eat away at me for some reason, and that was, like, tonight's, I guess, which I guess I'll pay attention and see if I end up using one. Because I remember I was scrolling through because I was looking for a specific one that I wanted to use, and I couldn't find it. Um, Now I'm realizing that I was looking for the toilet that came in growing together, and I didn't use that pack in here, so of course I'm not gonna have it, which means that I probably didn't put the toddler toilet in here. Also, that thought in the middle of the night about the toddler toilet then led me into the fact that I didn't put a trash can in my builds. Um, Outside or inside, there's no trash can. I think I think that's a standard for a lot of people when they build, they forget those items. And so maybe it's a standard for people when they download a lot from the gallery, they just know that they're gonna have to add it in or something. But yeah, that one didn't keep me up as long. I think then I went back to sleep. I was like, "Okay, whatever." And then I went to bed. Um, oh yeah, I used the new, like, lunchbox item that came in the base game update. I'm looking forward to using that in gameplay and seeing how it is. I'm assuming it works like the packed lunch option in Parenthood. Does it? Wait, yeah, that's a Parenthood feature. Unless that was added to base game too, where you can, like, put, like, a bagged lunch in your Sims inventory and then they go to work and they'll eat it. I can't tell if they also added that to base game. It's always hard to remember, but yeah, this one is the kids' bedroom, I guess. I was able to use the horse ranch, little barn dollhouse, which is really cute. I don't think I've gotten to use that yet. I'm starting well, not starting, I've started a new legacy challenge on my Twitch channel, except I kind of abandoned it for a few weeks because I was saving all my money up to buy a retail lot because I was like, wow, so he's gonna sell the wine he makes, and his wife is gonna sell the candles she makes. But then I learned that when you put candles for sale, they melt while they're like waiting to be bought, and no one buys anything. Everyone stands around for like hours, like 10 hours of no buying anything in game, and the candles just slowly melt away, which added to the stress that no one was buying anything because I haven't done that gameplay in a long time. And I was like so excited. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to save up all of Jumble's money and we're going to buy the retail shop and he's going to have so much fun, like selling all of his wine. And it did not work. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to end stream now because I need a moment, and the moment has lasted weeks because I have not touched the um, gameplay file again because of that. So maybe I'll try to do a restaurant or something instead, which also I'm sure is just as broken still. I haven't played with these features in years since they came out. So I need to remember that. I need to remember that a lot of stuff is just not going to function correctly, and that's okay. Um, there's not much of the house left. I know it's half the house, but the video ends pretty soon. Wait a minute. Did I forgot to add footage in then? I guess we'll see. Because in my editing software, it says there's only a minute left in this. And I have 3 rooms to decorate. I don't know if that's accurate, but we'll see. So this is the living room. I kind of it's like a weird shaped living room. It's very dark in this corner. I didn't really like that, but I kind of accepted it because I already made the other room a study. I could have probably switched them and added like way more books into that room, and it would have been cute. Okay, maybe the video is only a minute longer. This is the kitchen. I didn't clutter the kitchen at all. I put a couple of items on the counters and that was it. Because in my head, I was going to go back and maybe reclutter some of this, but I decided to leave it as is. I feel like it's okay. People could clutter a build, so if it's not as detailed as you usually like to see, I'm sorry. But look, see, there's like 5 clutter items in there. I think maybe that's sufficient. And then I have the dining room. I wanted a round table in here because it just felt right. And then I mix and match the chairs like I normally do because I like that. I use the wine racks. That's a new item in the horse ranch pack. The horse ranch pack has been out for a while now, like what, a couple months. Um, yeah, this also uses the early DLC rocking chair from Horse Ranch, which I guess isn't that big of a deal. You can switch it out. I was like yawning. I'm sorry. You could switch it out if you don't have that because I know that the time has passed for that. But yeah, that's the whole video. I'll be doing Bella Goth's remodel next week, hopefully, if I finish it in time. If not, I'm gonna probably build something smaller because that one's pretty big too. And yeah, so yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.